What's up you guys, Aditi? Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to talk about neurotransmitters. But if you haven't watched these videos and like in this particular order, then you should watch those first because it'll be a lot better to understand today's video. But before we begin, I want to give a little disclaimer because it's highly necessary. Many people are commenting on my biopsychology videos without even understanding the niche our channel belongs to. You need to understand that if you are a medical student or any other profession excluding psychology, then you need to understand that I make videos for psychology students. I make videos on psychology. So don't come at me in the comments telling me how to do my job, telling me to read this particular medical textbook and to explain things according to that textbook, because I use references of my psychology textbook and the textbook that has been given to me by Mumbai University, and whatever I explain, whatever information I give in my videos on this channel is sufficient for a psychology student or a psychology enthusiast. So I hope you get that straight. I hope you understand this. Now let's begin with today's video. A neurotransmitter is a chemical messenger that carries, boosts and balances signals between two neurons and also between neurons and muscles and neurons and glands. Billions of neurons work constantly to keep the brain functioning, managing a lot of things in our brain like our concentration level, our learning, our memory, even the basic functions like our breathing and even our heartbeat. They also affect a variety of psychological functions like our fear, mood, joy and even pleasure. So let's first try to understand how neurotransmitters work, and then we'll move on to learning about different neurotransmitters. I'll explain this in short, but if you want a better understanding of it, then you have to watch these videos. They are perfect for this. Now the neurotransmitters are located in the synaptic vesicles in the axon terminal. Now the axon terminal of the sending neurons do not touch the dendrites of the receiving neuron. There is this little gap between the two. It's called as synapse or synaptic gap. So the neurons that is sending these messages releases the neurotransmitters in the synaptic gap. Now once these neurotransmitters are released, they kind of bind themselves to the receptor sites of the dendrites of the receiving neuron, and they trigger a change in these neurons or cells. The receptors and neurotransmitters have this lock and key kind of a system. So like you need a specific key to open a lock, the same way you need specific kind of neurotransmitters to bind to the receptor sites. Now neurotransmitters bind to the receptor sites and it gets the desired or the designated effect. This activity of the release of neurotransmitters have to be stopped. So to stop it, there are three mechanisms. First is reuptake. So the neurotransmitters that are still floating in the synaptic gap will be sucked and they will end up back in the synaptic vesicle. The second one is that there is this enzyme in the synaptic gap, I think, that actually breaks all these neurotransmitters that are floating in the synaptic gap, and this mechanism is called as enzymatic degradation. And the third one is diffusion, where these neurotransmitters drift away from the receptor. There are two kinds of neurotransmitters. Actually, there are three if you Google it, but psychology students need to know just two. One is excitatory neurotransmitters. Now, these kinds of neurotransmitters actually trigger the sending of the messages to other cells. So it's like it increases the effect, or it excites the cell to send more messages. And the second kind of neurotransmitter is the inhibitory neurotransmitter. So this is the one, like the name suggests, it inhibits, it blocks or prevents the messages from being carried on. So imagine if there is a replacement or something that can act like these neurotransmitters, then they can work as neurotransmitters. So the word is drugs, obviously. So if there are drugs and the drugs molecules are very similar to the neurotransmitter molecules and they can fit in the receptors, then they can act as that particular neurotransmitter. So if the original neurotransmitter is excitatory neurotransmitter, then an agonist will increase this excitation. And if the original neurotransmitter is of an inhibitory kind, then the agonist will inhibit, like will increase the inhibition of that neurotransmitter. A great example would be a drug that can bind to the receptors of the heart muscles called as the beta receptors and can increase the action of the neurotransmitters, and that stimulates the contractions of the heart valves. The opposite would be an antagonist. So something that blocks or reduces the action of the neurotransmitter. So if an original neurotransmitter is an excitatory one, then an antagonist will reduce the excitation. But if the original neurotransmitter is an inhibitory one, मतलब ये खुद ही is blocking or reducing the action of the cell, then an antagonist will reduce the inhibition. मतलब the result would be an increase in the excitation, if that makes sense. So agonist will increase excitation and inhibition, so it will excite more and it will inhibit more, and an antagonist will reduce the excitation and also reduce the inhibition. So reducing inhibition matlab it will increase the excitement. I hope that's understandable. Now let's look at different neurotransmitters. The first neurotransmitter I'll talk about is acetylcholine or acetylcholine, and it is the first neurotransmitter that was identified. Okay. It is an excitatory neurotransmitter. In all cases except in the heart, it is an inhibitory one, and it is found in the synapse or synapse between neurons and muscle cells. So acetylcholine or acetylcholine serves as a stimulation for the muscles to contract. So if the receptors at the muscle cells are blocked in some way, and if the acetylcholine cannot bind itself to the receptor sites of the muscles, then the muscles, like those particular muscles, won't be able to contract. So basically, they would be paralyzed, I would say, in other words. This is exactly what happens with Curare. Now, Curare is a drug that is used on the darts by the South American Indians. Okay, now, Curare's molecules are very similar to and they fit in the receptor sites of the muscles without actually stimulating the cell, and this causes you to be paralyzed actually. So you can say that if acetylcholine is not released, or if there is less release of acetylcholine, then that causes paralysis. But if it's the opposite, that is, if the neuron releases too much of acetylcholine, then that can cause convulsions and even possibly death. And this is exactly what the bite of the black widow spider does. It is very similar and it fits perfectly into the receptor sites of the muscle cells and enhances the effects of the acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine is also found in the hippocampus. Hippocampus is an area in the brain that is responsible for forming new memories. I've already made a video on that. You can watch and learn more about hippocampus. So if there is less acetylcholine in the hippocampus, then it is associated with Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a kind of an irreversible, progressive, degenerative brain disorder where a person loses its memory as well as cognitive skills. The second neurotransmitter we'll talk about is glutamate. Glutamate is the major excitatory neurotransmitter in the nervous system. Okay, it ensures homeostasis with the effect of GABA. I'll speak about GABA next. Okay. Like acetylcholine, glutamate also plays a role in learning and memory, and is also involved in the development of the nervous system and synaptic plasticity. However, an excess of glutamate results in overactivation and neuronal damage, and may also be associated with cell death, which can occur after a stroke or head injury, or in degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease or Huntington disease. The third neurotransmitter is GABA or gamma aminobutyric acid. It is the most common neurotransmitter, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. It helps calm anxiety. So you can say that tranquilizing drugs and even alcohol are agonists for GABA or gamma aminobutyric acid. There are these anti-anxiety medications like diazepam, which is classified as benzodiazepine, and they actually enhance the functions of GABA and can be helped to treat anxiety, and it actually increases the feelings of relaxation and calmness in a person. So you can say that diazepam is actually an agonist for GABA as well. The fourth one is dopamine, and dopamine is commonly known as the feel-good hormone or a feel-good neurotransmitter. It is found in the brain and its function depends on the exact location it is found in the brain, and it is involved in many different things including reward and motivation. Several types of addictive drugs actually enhance or they act as an agonist for dopamine. You have heard the word dope, right? It comes from dopamine actually. Dopamine also plays a very important role in coordination of movement. So if there is less release of dopamine in a certain brain area, then it can result in Parkinson's disease. Now, Parkinson's disease is a degenerative disease that causes tremors and body movement impairments. And if there is too much of release of dopamine, then it results in a cluster of signs that can be a part of schizophrenia. The fifth one is serotonin. Now, serotonin, we have all heard of serotonin as a hormone, but it is also a neurotransmitter. And the serotonin neurotransmitter is found in the lower part of the brain. It acts as an excitatory or an inhibitory neurotransmitter depending on its location, but it is generally associated with sleep, mood, and appetite. Low levels of serotonin have been linked to depression. So there are these antidepressant medications called as SSRI or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and they help with depression, panic disorders, panic attacks, and also with anxiety, I think. So sometimes what happens is that even before the person gets the benefit or the effect of the neurotransmitter, these serotonin neurotransmitter is been reuptake. They are like sucked in back in the synaptic vesicle. So SSRI actually stops or blocks this reuptake, and due to this, these neurotransmitters keep floating in the synaptic gap, and they keep binding to the receptor sites of the other neuron, and that helps in elevation of mood and making you feel better and happy. There is a group of substances in our body or in our brain called as the neuropeptides. They are the hormones or neurotransmitters, or even they serve as an influence to the other neurotransmitters. You must have heard of endorphins, right? They are these pain controlling chemicals in our body. So endorphins are actually neuropeptides. So sometimes we touch a hot plate or we touch something hot, right? So it gets burnt and we feel this pain. It's because the neurons in our finger, they release neurotransmitters that are signaling pain. That goes back to our brain. Our brain releases endorphins, and these endorphins actually catch on, or they just bind on these receptor sites, and that actually stops the pain signal, and that's how the pain actually reduces. The name endorphin comes from the term endogenous morphins. The scientists that were studying nervous system found receptor sites that fit the molecules of morphine perfectly in them. So that's when they understood that there must be a natural substance in our body which is similar to morphine, which is endorphins, obviously. Drugs like heroin that are derived from opium, they become addictive because of endorphin. Like people that consume these drugs, right, their body just neglects or stops producing endorphins, and when these drugs ka effect wears off, the pain just becomes really uncontrollable for them, and due to which they want to consume more of these drugs, and that actually starts this addictive vicious cycle. So that is it for today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something from this. I would highly suggest to watch it in this order. I know I'm wearing the same clothes just to give it a nice match. So they will really help you. I will also leave the links of other videos that can help you revise or learn some concepts to understand them better in the description box as well, so go check those out. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, comment down below what other videos you want me to do, subscribe to this channel, join the community, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you next Friday with another psychology video. I'll try to explain this in some neurotransmitters that bind to the receptor sites. This one, how to say it. I'm on fire, baby.